All right. Tonight we have the Q&A. Can Bande please explain more detail about dependent origination? Okay. Now, this is a very big topic. This is a very, very big topic. We can talk and talk and talk and talk about this dependent origination in many, many ways. Now, normally, when we learn about dependent origination, paticca samuppada, this is what you all learn. This is what you all learn. Which has got some more, quite long, actually. This is what you all learn. Because what is dependent origination? With ignorance with ignorance as condition, volitional formation comes to be. With volitional formation as condition, consciousness comes to be. With consciousness as condition, mentality, materiality comes to be. Materiality, six sense spaces come, contact comes feeling, feelings come craving comes clinging, existence. Then with this existence comes birth comes aging, sorrow, lamentation, grief and despair. Such is the origin of entire mass of suffering. This because it's called dependent arising. Okay, then the Buddha usually will go on to the next one. But with the remainderless fading away of cessation and ignorance, volitional formation ceases. With cessation of volitional formation, consciousness ceases. With the cessation of consciousness, with the cessation of mentality and materiality, the cessation of six sense bases, contact, feelings, and this one has to go on with the next paragraph. Okay, feelings, craving, clinging, existence, birth cease to be. With the cessation of birth, aging, sorrow, lamentation, grief cease to be. Yeah? Such is the cessation of entire mass of suffering. All right. Now, this is normally what we learn. And for us, when we look at all these things, it's like too big for us to digest, too big for us to munch it. It's not in a bite size for us, because the understanding is too big. Okay, which is they are difficult and they are deep, which is one thing. Yeah. But there are other ways how we learn about dependent origination in a more smaller size, in a more chewable size, that you can able to understand it deeper. Once you understand it deeper, you understand the other all these things also. So when we learn about this dependent origination, we learn about this big as a concept first. But then we look at from it from another perspective. One of the perspective is to look at is this one. Oh, it's too big now. You got to see it a little bit more. Now, the first one is the standard version. Can you see the standard version here? All right, the ignorance, volitional, and all that thing, all the 12 links. This is the first one, is the normal one. In the Mahanidana version, Mahanidana version is one of the suttas in the Dikha Nikaya. It's a long sutta. And this Mahanidana sutta in the Dikha Nikaya number 15, it's when it's given, when the Buddha delivered to them, to the devotees, these devotees are quite knowledgeable and their spiritual factors are quite deep. The Buddha doesn't deliver this Mahanidana version of sutta into any kind of devotees or bhikkhus or this one. This one, when it's given, is towards the people who are quite well matured in their spiritual development. So, in the Mahanidana version, then the Buddha doesn't go on with starting with ignorance. He says starting with consciousness, condition materiality and mentality, and then this mentality condition back the consciousness. And then with this namarupa, materiality and mentality, then it comes in with the contact already. The contact comes feelings come craving comes existence, and so on. You see, it's like more like a present thing and also the future thing. It doesn't talk about ignorance and all those things. All right. So this is another version of how we can look at dependent origination. Another way of dependent origination is even more simple for you all to understand. Is this? This is what we do, So as the Buddha says that when we understand this secondary sequence, another way of understanding, also in the Mahanidana, the Buddha gave us this, that once you have craving, it means a craving for a sensual desire, especially. When you have craving, then it will come pursuit. That means you're going to look for it. Your mind is already thinking already. Then you want to have gain, you want to have a decision making. Then you make a firm decision that you want it. Then your desire lust comes in, then your attachment, then your possessiveness. That means you already have it already right now. You already have it already, possession in you already. Then you have the stinginess, you're not going to share with others. Then you want to safeguard your possession. And then if this safeguarding of possession, if people want it, then you can various evil phenomena. That means the Buddha was putting in the Mahanidana Sutta is about you taking up sticks and stones to protect your possessions. Whoever comes in and whoever want to take it, you will defend it with sticks and stones and so on. This is what we call the various phenomena. So if we have a certain degree of understanding that beginning from our craving comes into we want it, we want to protect it, safeguarding it. So it goes through a number of desire inside there. So if we can understand, don't have to understand the ignorance, but if you understand from a craving onwards, our sensual pleasures onwards, then these things already comes in. So this is one way in our everyday life that when we understand this way, then we will go through all these things. If let's say if it's your car, if you desire a certain car, then you start to pursue already. You start to make more money for it, and then you want it, and then once you get the money, then you make a decision that you want it, and then after that you buy it, you desire, you attach to it, and then it become strong attachment. You possessive of it. Then you become very stingy. People want to ask you to do this one. You don't want to lend other people or to give other people. You're safeguarding it. And people do anything to your car, then you get very angry. You want your words are harsh words are coming out and so on. So this is how we are looking at dependent origination on an everyday scale. All right, on an everyday scale. Now, sometimes on another aspect of dependent origination, the Buddha doesn't go through the standard version here. The Buddha doesn't go through that. Doesn't go through those things. He begins from contact. He begins from contact, comes into the clinging. 1, 2, 3, 4 only. It doesn't have to go into everything. But understanding of that, you also understanding the whole dependent origination. Then here it says that through contact, okay, if you have I, the I as the one that you see, the I, then you have I consciousness, and then you have the I consciousness and the I object. Then when the three come together, then they say it's a contact. The Buddha says that is a contact. From contact comes feelings. Then it comes feelings, it comes craving. Cravings then become clinging. Clinging means you're attached already. Strongly attached and strongly this one. And then it comes existing, then come this one. So sometimes the Buddha gave only a very start from the middle. It doesn't even end also in the standard form. It just gives you that particular part only. Now, what is important about this dependent origination is the principle of this dependent origination is understanding conditionality. Okay, you see that all the arrow there. You're looking at you're looking at the component, but what is important is the arrow. The arrow is all the same in the sense that everything is something is depending on something else. If this arises, that arises. If this doesn't arise, that doesn't arise. So the arrow here, all this, the conditioning here, this is something that we have to get from the concept of dependent origination. Because the understanding of this conditioning, it will give rise to seeing into the right perception, especially onto anatta. All right? Into anatta, non-self. And by looking at it, seeing things as conditioned again and again, and throughout our life, if we keep on reminding ourselves about this conditioning and so on, then the self, the idea of a soul and the idea of a God and the idea of a creator God, those things will start to push away. And then you begin to see that life is just conditioning, a lot of conditioning. And with that also, understanding that this is a principle of conditioning, then it also helps us when we go into vipassana practice. When it goes into vipassana practice, now you see that we were talking about the Dhammanupassana Satipatthana. Dhammanupassana Satipatthana, let's say that day we are talking about the sensual desire. When the subject is sensual desire, and I said that the Buddha says that you must, when the sensual desire arises, you must know what its condition that is affecting the sensual desire to arise. When the sensual desire is removed, then you must know what are the condition and it removes it. Then also in a way that when the sensual desire is abandoned, then you also must know that what are the conditions are there to make certain conditions that so that this sensual desire does not arise. So here, when we begin to look into this sensual desire, that day also I gave the example about, you know that the sensual desire arises. You know that desire. Now, you know that the desire arises is coming from the sound that you are hearing. Then you hear that the music sound. Then you notice that in between there's pleasant feelings that arises. Pleasant. Then after you notice desire. Then after it comes thinking. Then if you're able to notice it, you notice its conditionality. One thing gives rise to another, it gives rise to another. Now, this time is in the direct experience. Now, if you can able to see that thing, not just once, but repeatedly in other object also, then when you see that, you also begin to see dependent origination. You also begin to see, although I don't use the word dependent origination because I do not want to confuse you in so many ways, But but when you see those things in that way, you see how the condition arises, then you begin also to see the nature of dependent origination. That is how, you see that small, but you actually see everything. And also, like for example, when we were talking about the knowledge of conditionality, which is the second insight knowledge, which is not very far, it's not very deep, also it's a beginning insight knowledge. When you look at insight knowledge of conditionality, that is also understanding of dependent origination. Although it is not, you are not seeing into dependent origination as a whole, but you are seeing a portion of it because you're seeing into conditionality. Some people, some teachers says that you must see the whole 12 dependent origination with the second insight. Not necessary. It's not about the component. It's about the conditioning that you have to see, that it becomes an insight. So even for example, sometimes I give a very simple example that when you notice when you're aware of your intention that you're going to walk, then you notice the intention, then you start walking. Then if that this time when you are more skillful, you actually see the consciousness arises, then only the leg starts moving. Then when you do not see the consciousness arises, that intention does not arise, then you notice that the leg will not move. Then when it happens in a number of times in that way, you also see dependent origination, although it's such a narrow space and such a narrow, a narrow view, just with mind arises, body takes place. Then that is also dependent origination. With that dependent origination, you also see the non-self aspect of it. Then with the seeing of non-self aspect of it, you see that this is no I, there's no I, there's only condition, one thing conditioning another thing. And when you become much more skillful in the seeing this mind and body, how it moves, then it will show you even more. And then that day also I mentioned that when you notice that even in the lifting, then if the lifting you got three portion of going up, three phases of going up, then that time also, every phase also comes with an intention. And then only that particular phase comes up, then another one, then another one. Then when you see that, also you're seeing into dependent origination directly, not conceptually this time. So understanding of this dependent origination, when we understand it, it helps us to drive us, especially for Vipassana meditator, to drive us into seeing its conditionality in our mind and body. And that is important. Sometimes people talk about this dependent origination is only on a theoretical level. And on a theoretical level, you talk about Abhidhamma, you talk about Sutta, you quote various suttas and all that. You come out even more entangled, or pasikat, even more. You do not know what the teacher is talking anymore. But when it comes in with meditation, it makes things so much more clearer, so much more, so much more refined in this sense. So the whole dependent origination here is to help us to go into our practice, especially in the Vipassana, so that we can see it much more better. Okay? So this is quite a lot.